If you're doing everything yourself, you're not building, you're surviving.
What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Grind.
BTG.
Hey, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. Our podcast is for those who want to go beyond the grind. My name is Kay.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Tosin.
All right, well, today, we're going to continue the special 3-part series where we're going to be diving into learning to delegate and trust in the process. Obviously, we've done one with Tosin. We did one for myself. And now we're going to be listening to Alan.
That's right.
Getting from his perspective, how he's learned to let go and delegate effectively.
Yes.
So we're going to jump all the way back.
Way back.
Way back to when you first learned how to delegate. Can you give us the story?
I said this before, I was told that I came out the womb delegating. Bossing my parents around. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't that person. But, I think when I really thought, I realized, delegating works best and was when I got into a leadership role. So I think in dental school, there were some issues with the scheduling and all that. And I came into more of a leadership role for selfish reasons, not because I just wanted to be a leader, but more so because I felt like the way the schedule was, we weren't going to graduate. And it wasn't about to happen. I was like, I worked too hard, I'm graduating. So I became one of the leaders in the class, took student council, all that stuff. And I ended up extending our clinic hours so that we can graduate. But some of the things I had to do, I realized there's no way I could do all this and be a dental student at some point. So I had to get some people together and delegate out some of the tasks that I had to do. But fast forward to, opening my own practice, I was just burning myself out. And I knew in my head that there is no way you can be a dentist without delegating. You can't do everything. And it's so difficult because there's so much at the front that's not, that you're in the chair, they're in there, but you need to see everything. And I would spend hours and hours and hours trying to do everything. And you two have shared, the key is having the right personnel first and foremost.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right personnel, forget about delegating. You're just wasting your efforts. You're just giving it to someone so it can't be done. So you have to go redo it anyway.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me that I was like, look, if I want to sleep, and I have friends who don't delegate well. They're up at 10 p.m. entering insurance payments, verifying insurance because their staff didn't do it.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because some of us, we just go to the dentist, we see the dentist, that's your whole job. You can't really delegate, the dentist part, right?
Oh, the dentist part.
What are you
right? So you can't. So you're delegating, making sure calls were returned, right? If you called, okay, did you call these people back? Your staff should do it. But sometimes they don't. There has to be a way of checking it and where you can see everything. There has to be a transparency. Where these insurance claim, when you leave here, we did a procedure. Did you hit complete and submit the claim?
Oh, man.
Sometimes they don't attach all of the right claims. So you have to set up processes like, hey, we have this routing slip. When they come in, they check in. Or did we get the right consents? Yeah, they had a consent, but it wasn't scanned in. So, okay, so the easiest way to do this is to, find ways to make it less likely for people to fail, right? Because people are if you think everyone's going to succeed, then you need to rework your way of thinking, because people are always going to let you down. So if you're setting them up for failure, guess what? They're going to fail. So to me, when you're setting them up for failure, you're expecting people to be smarter and care more about your business than you do. You have to make the process easy so it's harder for them to fail rather than easier to fail. So how I mitigated that is okay, every time we're doing paper forms, they don't scan it in, whatever. We're going fully digital. You sign it, it's in there. There's an audit trail, you delete it, it's still audit trail. You know, it's like a software. 2, as far as submitting the claims, we have a routing slip. Each patient, it follows a patient. So when you get a patient, you walk them to the back or the front gives it to you. You can't bring a patient back. You don't know their name. I don't want you looking at the schedule. You better have the routing slip. The routing slip comes in. It says what time they came in. They highlight what they're here for. There's all these things that follow them. Kind of like when you're in a hospital setting. It's like a chart. But, you know, whatever we did, you highlight what we did. And at the back, it is the assistant's job to select, okay, we treatment planned this, but we only did these 2, or we ended up doing 5 more than whatever, and it's in there. So when they get to the front, you walk the patient. There's no, okay, see you later. No, it has to be end to end. The patient should never go anywhere by themselves. Like, you walk them, the front introduces them, they walk them, the back walks them to the room. When they're ready to go, they get up with, you know, even when I leave the room, I'm good to go. The patient's like, oh, I'm ready. 1 second, such and such will be here, and they're going to walk you to the front. One is customer service, because who says, see you later? You know, like, so they walk them out. Then there's always a handoff. We'll see you next time. We've made your appointment. You know, the person at the front, hey, we made his appointment. It's going to be for 2 weeks. These are the procedures, and here is the routing slip. Boom. Every information they have should be on there, and they should be able to go from there. And even with the calls, did you return this call? We're automated. So there's a voice AI, everything that we've trained. Every time someone calls, an email goes to the office email. Certain personnel get a text message of a transcript of what's done. And then there's someone whose job it is to handle all calls, whether the AI answers or they answer. Every single call is returned, and we can all see it. So we all know you didn't do your job or did your job. Right. So I had to make it easy for people to do their job rather than hard and have them rely. There has to be some kind of paper trail. Yeah. Like if something, you know, slips through the cracks, we always have like another bucket underneath to catch it. Yeah. So it was easier to delegate for me to know, like, if it's messed up, I can at least see where the mess ups were and fix it.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, one thing that I'm understanding, at least from what you're saying, is that a lot of it boils down to, you know, systems, processes, or I guess your SOP, right? Yeah. But in your answer, I was hearing a lot of I, because obviously you had to be the one to put that together, correct? Right? So I'm curious, as a business owner, have you ever been in a position where you've had to delegate that SOP? I love process, you know.
When you find those people who are just those people, you just get happy. It's pursuit of happiness. You're like, you know what? In my staff who are core, they will say I'm the easiest person to work with. I would hope so, because I'm very understanding. Like, I'm not going to chastise you for making a mistake. Yeah. I'm going to be upset if you make the same mistake all the time. Yes. I'm like, there's a solution for this. Yeah. Do you not wonder, I keep making the same mistake?
Like, build a process.
Build a process. And yes, there's been a time where I had OMs where they came to me like, Dr. Charles, you work too hard. Sit over here. I will make this. Or they'll come to me with a proposal like, hey, I noticed we do this wrong. Can we do this? I was like, okay, that sounds good. Here's the budget. Figure it out. Come up with something. Whatever you do, you know, I have that trust in them that I'm like, okay, when you come up with an idea, because you're having this issue, and I don't want you to know, I want you to know that I'm listening. And that would make my life easier and your life easier. You come up with a plan. Or sometimes they just approach me and created. Actually, some of these systems that I created was because of previous office managers. Right. They were like, we need to do, and we tweaked it together. And that was wonderful. And they knew, like, I was like, whatever you need. Actually, both of those, the only reason they don't work right now with me is because they're no longer in dental. They left the industry. Otherwise, I would be like, come back.
Now, we've all been singing about how delegation is like the best thing that can happen to them, right? Because, you know, it's something that is needed for your business to be able to get more out of you.
Right.
But I also know that you got some people out there who are going to be skeptical about delegating. So can you tell us about a story, if you do have, of a time where you've delegated something and it didn't turn out the way you thought it was going to turn out, and everything just fell apart. And like, how did you recover from that? Because I think when you're making a decision, not only is it important to know the benefit of a decision, but you also need to be able to account for the potential consequence of that decision, right? And how you overcame those.
I've had many of those.
Give us one.
Yeah. Granted, it wasn't anything like, non-reversible, so I had to eat it. Like where it's like, like I delegated people to submit claims, right? We did all the procedures. It was supposed to be 100% covered by the insurance, yada, 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 yada. Thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars of treatment.
Yeah. Jesus.
In the one person, like $40K. Actually like $60K or stuff. It was submitted. They didn't check the term date of the coverage, and it had lapsed. So we literally did the treatment for free, and I was like,
$40,000.
It was like 60. I'm like, so I'm holding this back. Like,
and you can't share with.
I was like, got gifts for everyone. Here's your part. Here's your part. Here's your part.
Like, you start calling your customer
Tosin sees the account. I was like, that got many stories, and it's like, I was like, I didn't cry because there's nothing you can do about it, right? So I was sad. I went home. I was like, well, I'm going across the street to Papa Do's and get some drinks because it was open right then.
You just have to
walk to Papa Do's and just
I was just like,
walk out.
I was just like, they were like, I'm so sorry, and I was like, I thought we have systems. And what it was is they didn't look at the year. They were like, oh yeah, this, that, and that is. I'm like, you got hustled. That person hustled you because you didn't realize that like it turned on like some plans. They had a really good plan. Everything was good and whatever. There wasn't much to do, but their plan starts over in the middle of the year. Mm-hmm. The treatment, one part, was supposed to start before their plan termed, right? Mm-hmm. Like a month before their plan termed, and we'd be, or like 2 months before their term, or a few months before it termed, and we'd be fine if we completed it before it termed. Mm-hmm. But something happened. They didn't reschedule, and we did it after it termed. Right? Like literally like 2 weeks after a term. And we did all these implants, everything, surgery, extractions, this, that. No, so much was done on that person. I recreated this whole human. Like, and like, I was like, dang, like we had already, and it was kind of unfair to them because they confirmed with us multiple times. Like, we're sure. I'm like, yes, you are lucky. If you pay, like, I think your portion is like $2,000. Does he have like a special? It was like once in a lifetime type of insurance. There's not every dental and medical. He just happened to be a program where they covered it's like unlimited for him. Wow. Granted, if you have the supporting stuff, we submitted a pre-op, everything was good, but nobody went back to check like this term mid-year. Not at the end of, not the fiscal, it was a fiscal year, not a calendar year. So it was like September instead of like December. And they just had the assumption, and we did it after September. And I was like, yo, why are we not getting paid? It said denied, no, not found. So we looked through it, I'm like, September, bro. September.
So what are some things that you communicate when you have those type of failures? Like that, are you yelling at them? Are you like?
No, I said, which one of you was in charge of this? And I waited. I was like, incorrect. It was you. Well, doc, no. I spoke directly to you. We even have a text message thread. And wait, I was like,
so you were asking a question that you knew the answer to?
In front of everybody.
Correct.
You are correct. Calling out that employee.
I didn't yell. I was just like,
is this like at a stand-up meeting?
It was a meeting. I was like, no, it wasn't a stand-up meeting. It was everybody stop what you're doing. Come hither. Like, look at this lab. Which one of y'all is going to eat this? Because when we get bonuses, we all share it. When we hit things, we all do good. Is anybody want to eat this next time? I'm like, it's one thing to fail, but this could have been 100% prevented. And, like now when you guys see certain things, where we're at. I didn't make a payback. I didn't punish anyone. I just wanted it to not happen again. So I had a conversation with everyone. Look, when it comes to treatment, I don't care if you verified it a month ago or yesterday. The day we start the treatment, make sure we're good.
Yeah.
Like, don't wait till after the treatment is done. And yeah, you know, like if something changed, we let the patient know. Like, they may be mad, but at least we haven't touched them, right?
Yeah.
Now you have exposed me to liability on doing treatment that I didn't get paid for, you know? So it is a lot. We're doing like, you know, high caliber work. So it's not like we did a couple of fillings worth of $40K. No, we did like literally everything reconstructed. Like, so literally, he's a new person. He just smiling like could be a model now. Like, you know, like he's living his best life. But
so now that you had this big failure, you never had any delegation fails ever.
No.
Right?
I didn't. No.
Because you told them they have followed.
No.
Right?
We still have failures. It's just I don't mind if you make mistakes. Please don't ever make a costly mistake and don't make the same mistake twice.
Okay.
So that mistake has never happened again. Never. You know, because I was like, if you are here, and they use it as an example too to everybody. I'm like, no, you don't feel it. You don't feel it because it's not yours, right? So like, I'm like, you guys want X, Y, and Z. Well, there goes the bonus. Consider that the bonus because nobody's eating it but me. Like, so it was just like a really like I was irritated, but I had to eat it because at the end of the day, I could have made sure, but then it's irritating because that defeats the purpose of the delegation. There are other times where we've had things that, you know, staff broke some stuff. Some people are in charge of stuff. And I don't know if you know dental, half the stuff's like 30, 40K, everything. Like everything is like every little thing. Yeah. And people break stuff. And I'm like, look, it's not yours. I get it. But it's also not yours. So you should treat it better than your own stuff. You know, like this isn't cheap. There's things where they've made, you know, like clinically, I trust no one. You can't
say more about that.
Clinically, I trust no one. I trust myself, and that's it. Well, I don't delegate.
So some of us are not in the medical field.
So like
clinically mean.
So when I get to a chair, if your chart says we're doing whatever on tooth number 5,
okay,
I look at it. I look at the chart. I look at the X-ray. I ask my staff, we're doing tooth number 5. Just confirm we're doing tooth number 5. I ask the patient, just confirm they're doing tooth number 5. They're like,
we generally don't
what tooth is that? I'm like, this upper right tooth right here. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I don't ever go, we're doing tooth and start drilling. Yeah. I trust nobody because errors matter and people are human. And at the end of the day, you cannot be like, well, my staff told me it was number 5 board.
Yeah. I think it's also
and
like a
it's just clinically.
practice.
Yeah, it's clinically. Yeah. I always like verify multiple times. Yeah. I check, I double check, I look at X-ray, I ask the patient, I probably asked the patient like 3 times. They're like, is this guy dumb? Like, I'm like, no, I'm trying to make sure that you haven't changed your mind between, oh no, I actually want this address first, you know? And it could be on a treatment plan to do either or, but I want to make sure we're addressing your main issue. But clinically, I trust no one. Administrative tasks, I have learned to try to delegate certain things.
I don't even think it's a trust thing because
it's just your clinically responsibility.
Like, let's say, for example, you know, you got $1 million that you need to send to a client, right? And the client has texted you the account number. It only makes sense for you to call them like, hey, are you sure this is the account number? You know? And then when you're sending that money,
maybe even call that base.
Exactly.
Right?
And then
send you one penny verse. Make sure you
when you're sending it, the bank is going to say, are you sure this is, you know what I'm saying? Everybody is going to have different steps just to be able to verify. But anyway, I wanted to ask you something, Alan, because one of the things that I mentioned for myself was the discomfort that came with me delegating simply because I wanted things a certain way, right? So I want to ask for you, I don't know if you can relate with that, but how do you, especially maybe when you first started delegating, how do you deal with the discomfort of delegating, knowing that the person that you're delegating to might not necessarily do things the way you want it done?
So 2 answers.
You like
it's
that
when,
question,
so It depends on the person. Some people I like that they don't do it the way I want it done because they do it better than me.
Okay.
And I'm like, you know, like I had a staff, shout out to Hope. She knows I think highly of her, and Maria. When it comes to insurance billing, like when I'm like, oh, let's bill this, and Maria's like, does it her way? I'm like, yes, do it your way. Do not listen to me. Do it your way because you're the coldest at this. Because I fully trust you because I've seen it. I've thought that there are things that I think I can do better, but I know certain things. But that comes with the person, and you know the personality. Like you meet people where it doesn't matter what it is, certain things they don't care about, but what they like doing, they take so much pride in it that you're like, I don't even understand why there's so much pride in this, but they take so much pride in it. It's almost like raising a child to them. So they put that much effort. Now, if I ask them to do something else, they might be like, you know, but like there are certain people you identify and you're like, this is you. This is literally you. You would do this in the middle of the night if you could. And so you know that they're going to take pride in it. And if your way is better, they're going to do it your way. And if they have a better way, they're not, it's not like I'm doing this way all these years. They're like, those people tend to be open for anything better. Like they have a hunger for knowledge when it comes to that thing. So they want the best. So if they're like, what? You got another way? Let me see. No, that's trash. My way is better. Like I've done it both ways, you know, but I have run into situations where I had people who thought their way was the best. And I think clinically, I'm willing to learn from anyone, even administratively. I don't care if you're like the person who started today, knows nothing about dentistry. If you have an idea, because some of the best ideas come from outside of dentistry.
Yeah, that's correct.
So like, for instance, there was a guy who came up with this thing. Basically, we used to place multiple implants, right? We take mold, since it's like the accuracy is like 0.25 millimeters, like how much of an error margin and all that stuff with crowns, everything, right? It's multiple things. So they all have to go draw in the same direction for the bridge to sit on, right? So this person, when he saw his dad get this procedure, he saw how many steps it took, mold this, mold that, mold that. He came from an engineering background and programming. He was like, well, we have software that just does this in 2 seconds. Why don't they just do this? And everybody in dentistry was like, that's stupid. We don't know what you're talking about. Turns out it's like a multi-$100 million idea, and it revolutionized everything. So he knew nothing about dentistry, but what he did know is there's a better way to do this. So to me, I do have had some people who've come up to me and I was like, they literally knew nothing about dentistry. And I was like, they said something. They're like, well, what did he say? He said something about something. He was like, why don't you do this? I was like, if it was that easy, wait, why don't we do that? That's a good idea. I was like, if it was that easy, everybody, I was like, hold on, man. I started like, oh, nobody did. We could just, you're right. It's like, and then, exactly. But then I also have people where you're like, do it my way. And they're like, no, I've been doing this forever. I'm like, no, do it my way. And then I'm like, your way doesn't work. And I'm like, you know what? As long as it's not harming the patient, do it your way. And then we're going to evaluate. And I see their way and I'm like, your way is trash.
It's inefficient.
It's inefficient.
No.
Go back to doing it my way. Like, because it's yielding the results consistently. If your way is not consistently yielding a better result or equal result, we cannot do something that is yielding inferior results or inconsistent results.
Correct. That's actually a really good way to think about it. Before we quickly round up, Alan, just quick 30 seconds. If you had to go back to your young self, you know, because I'm sure you got some young people that are going to be watching this, and you have to give yourself an advice on delegation, what would it be?
The biggest thing I would say that I learned is that, again, make sure you are reserving enough time to work on the business and not in the business. So you can't delegate if you're in the business.
So what does that mean on the business versus in the business?
If you're a worker in your business, it's hard to have a high level view. If you're constantly in the back doing dentistry, it's hard for you to see the front. So if you don't have time to where you're like evaluating what they're doing and not treating a patient, you can't really delegate much because you don't know if they're doing it right or wrong.
For sure.
And even if you're in the back, I always tell people, I learned this from a friend of mine, take time at least once a week, get a notepad together and journal. Write up tasks, make your plan for the week. You can evaluate and assess. When you write things down, something about writing things down and seeing it makes it make sense. When you keep it up here, it doesn't materialize.
Close it out.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, guys. This was a 3-part series on learning to delegate.
Yes.
You had my point of view, Kay's point of view, Alan's point of view. So with all of that, I wish you guys take all those gems and go out there, grind smart, be better. Where can they find us?
Go beyondthegrind.com.
That's right. Until next time.
Peace.
To make strategic decisions and take calculated risks. We'll also talk about future-proofing your business so you can build a lasting legacy and true freedom. This isn't a one-sided conversation. We're all on this journey together to build a life and a business that works for you, so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes.